It had been drifting for over 300 years. A small, weathered bottle, carried by waves across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, finally washed ashore on a quiet beach in Bermuda. The fisherman who found it thought it was just another piece of debris, something to toss aside, until he noticed the faded paper inside. With trembling hands, he cracked open the bottle. Inside was a message, written in a spidery old hand, the ink still legible despite the years. The note was brief but chilling. The treasure lies beneath the black cliffs. Beware the curse that guards it. Once opened, there is no turning back. At first, it seemed like the fanciful ramblings of a long-dead pirate. But for one man, that simple message would change everything. Dr. Edward Wainwright, a maritime historian and treasure hunter, had spent his career researching the mysteries of the Caribbean, obsessed with the legends of lost pirate gold. The moment he heard of the message in the bottle, something stirred within him. The note seemed too specific, too eerily detailed to be a mere coincidence. The legend of the pirate Captain Thomas Blackclaw Drake, who had terrorized the Caribbean in the early 1700s, was one of the most infamous, and the location of his treasure had been lost to time. There were rumors, maps, and whispers, but no one had ever been able to track it down. That was until now. The message was the key, and it pointed directly to the black cliffs near the shores of an uncharted island. The bottle had found its way home, and with it, the mystery that had plagued historians for centuries was finally ready to be unraveled. What was waiting on that island, no one could say. But one thing was certain: the treasure and the dark history behind it was about to be uncovered. The expedition set sail from Port Royal, guided by nothing but the cryptic message and a hand-drawn map that had been passed down through generations. Dr. Wainwright was determined to solve the centuries-old mystery, and this was the opportunity he had been waiting for. As their ship, the Sea Wolf, neared the island, an eerie sense of foreboding settled over the crew. The island was small, hidden behind an impenetrable veil of fog and jagged cliffs. The air grew heavy with tension as they approached, and the sailors murmured about the island's dark reputation. Some believed it to be cursed. Others swore it was haunted by the ghosts of Blackclaw Drake's crew, who had vanished without a trace. As they anchored off the shore, the crew dropped small rowboats into the water. Wainwright's heart raced as the island grew closer. The black cliffs loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, their jagged peaks disappearing into the mist. There was no turning back now. The first signs of what they had come to find were found almost immediately. As the team made their way through the thick jungle, they stumbled upon remnants of old pirate camps, half-buried cannons, broken wooden crates, and pieces of old treasure chests scattered across the ground. The relics were still there, untouched for hundreds of years, almost as if the island itself had been waiting for them. But the deeper they went, the more they felt the weight of the island's history pressing down on them. Strange sounds echoed from the jungle, and shadowy shapes seemed to move just out of sight. The crew grew uneasy, but Wainwright pressed on, convinced that the treasure, and the mystery surrounding it, were within reach. And then, buried beneath a pile of old rocks and moss, they found the first sign of the treasure: an old iron chest, sealed shut with a rusted lock. Wainwright's hands trembled as he knelt beside it, knowing that what lay inside could change everything. As Dr. Wainwright knelt before the chest, the crew gathered around him in eager anticipation. The iron lock, old and rusted, was no match for the tools they'd brought, and with a few sharp blows, the chest creaked open. Inside was something unexpected. It wasn't gold or jewels or the legendary treasure they had hoped for. Instead, it was a weathered, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. Tucked within the journal was a small folded piece of parchment. The paper was cracked at the edges, its ink faded but still legible. The note was a message from the past, a message that would change everything. Written in a hurried hand, the letter spoke of the treasure's true nature. It revealed the location of a hidden vault deep beneath the island, guarded by deadly traps, and warned of the curse that had been placed upon the gold. The treasure is not gold nor silver, the note read. It is the key to the island's heart. If you awaken it, the island will awake with you. As the words sank in, the crew fell silent. What did it mean? Was the treasure really just a key? A key to what? And why had this pirate, whoever he was, hidden it so carefully? Wainwright was undeterred, though the words in the note gnawed at him. There was no turning back now. The map and message were clear. The treasure was deeper in the island, and it was waiting for them to find it. But as he carefully tucked the note back into the journal, a chilling realization swept over him. Something was watching them. The island, it seemed, wasn't just a place of hidden treasure. It had its own will, its own dark secrets that had been buried for centuries. And now it was beginning to stir. The message was a puzzle, and Dr. Wainwright wasn't the only one trying to solve it. Back in Port Royal, he enlisted the help of Professor Amelia Foster, an expert in Caribbean piracy and ancient symbols. She studied the note with a keen eye, noting that the language used was more than just a pirate's last words. It was part of an old pirate code, one that had been passed down through secret societies for generations. "We're dealing with something much older than just pirate treasure," she told him. "This is more than a map. It's a warning. And the treasure, it's not what you think it is." Together, they analyzed the symbols on the parchment. One stood out, a serpent devouring its own tail, the same symbol found on the pirate's tattoo and the letter seal. This wasn't just a symbol of greed or death. It was a symbol of rebirth and eternity, often used by secret cults in ancient societies. The implication was chilling. This treasure wasn't about wealth, but about power. The professor theorized that the relic was the key to an ancient ritual, something that could unlock the island's dark past. But no one was certain of what awaited them. The more they uncovered, the more they realized the relic wasn't just a piece of history. It was alive, and it was calling them. They gathered the remaining clues and prepared for another journey to follow the path set by the pirate's message. But as they did, strange things began to happen. First, a member of the crew fell ill, then the equipment started disappearing overnight. The island itself seemed to resist them, as though it had a will of its own. As Dr. Wainwright and Professor Foster prepared to set sail once more, the island seemed to pulse with an unsettling energy, drawing them closer to something they weren't prepared for. The treasure was real, but its true nature was far darker than anyone could imagine. The island had never been more alive. As the Sea Wolf docked once again at the shores of the mysterious land, an unsettling quiet filled the air. The crew was on edge, their nerves frayed by the unexplained events that had occurred during their last journey. Yet the treasure and the call of the relic was too compelling to ignore. Dr. Wainwright, Professor Foster, and the rest of the team ventured deeper into the jungle, following the cryptic instructions from the message. The air grew thicker as they moved forward, each step heavier than the last. The island seemed to shift around them, trees growing unnaturally close, rocks shifting underfoot as if the very land was conspiring against them. Then came the first sign of the island's deadly defenses. The path they followed split in two, leading them toward a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone archway, overgrown with moss and vines. It seemed innocuous enough, but as they stepped forward, the ground trembled beneath them. A low rumble vibrated through the earth, and the archway opened to reveal a stone door, etched with more of the serpent symbols. But before they could approach, a loud snap echoed through the jungle. Thick vines shot from the ground, wrapping around the nearest trees and pulling them violently to the ground. The jungle had triggered its first trap. The crew rushed forward, narrowly dodging the snapping vines as a new obstacle emerged, a stone pathway leading into the depths of the island, flanked by towering statues of long-dead pirates. Their eyes, carved into the stone, seemed to follow the crew with a cold, lifeless gaze. With each step they took, the island seemed to close in on them, as if the treasure itself was guarding its secret. But Wainwright was determined. The treasure was near, but the price to find it might be their lives. The stone door creaked open, revealing the heart of the island's treasure. But what lay beyond was not a glittering hoard of gold or jewels. Instead, the room was bathed in an eerie green light, emanating from a massive stone altar at the center. Surrounding it were ancient, faded carvings, symbols of serpents, waves, and skulls, the same ones found on the pirate's journal, the letter, and the message in the bottle. The altar was made of dark stone, and at its center lay a strange, pulsating object. Not a chest or a pile of riches, but something more sinister. A dark, heart-shaped relic, glowing faintly. It was bound by chains, etched with mysterious symbols that seemed to shift with the light. As the crew approached, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and a cold wind swept through the chamber, carrying with it whispers that seemed to echo from the depths of time itself. Dr. Wainwright approached the altar, his hand trembling as he reached out toward the relic. He had uncovered the pirate's true treasure, not gold or riches, but an ancient artifact of unimaginable power. It was the key to an ancient curse, an artifact that had been locked away for centuries to prevent it from being used by the living. The relic pulsed with an ominous energy, and for a moment, the room seemed to darken. The pirate's warning echoed in Wainwright's mind. Once opened, there is no turning back. As the relic's power surged, the island seemed to come alive. The statues around the chamber cracked, revealing the bones of long-dead pirates. The jungle outside stirred, as if awakening after centuries of slumber. The treasure was not meant for humans. It was a key to an ancient curse, and in their greed, the crew had unlocked it. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet gave way, and the altar split open, the relic sinking into the earth, vanishing from sight. The island, it seemed, was not just hiding treasure. It was guarding something far more dangerous. The final revelation was clear. The pirates had hidden not gold, but a force that should never have been disturbed, and now it was free. The message in a bottle that had spent 300 years drifting across the ocean had done more than reveal a pirate's treasure. It had unearthed a story long forgotten, and with it, a truth far darker than anyone had anticipated. The relic, once thought to be nothing more than a piece of pirate folklore, was now proven to be a key, not to gold, but to an ancient and deadly power that had been buried deep beneath the island. But the treasure was not meant for the living. The island had been a prison, built to contain something far older, far more dangerous than any pirate treasure. The pirates who had come before had understood this. They had hidden their wealth not to protect it from enemies, but to keep the relic from falling into the wrong hands. As the crew sailed away from the island, the weight of what they had uncovered pressed down on them. The island was still out there, its secrets still buried beneath the earth, waiting for the next fool who would seek it. The curse had been unleashed, and the relic, now in the hands of those who sought it, was free. The legacy of Captain Thomas Black Claw, Drake and his pirate crew, was one of darkness, betrayal, and sacrifice. They had tried to protect the world from the power they had uncovered, but in the end, the temptation of greed had proven too strong. The island had called to them, and now it would call again. The world would never be the same. For some treasures, it is